In case you're wondering, hello, I'm Rob Pratt, and we're wearing these because there's a lot of people here. We're at the Honus Wagner Museum, the Carnegie History Center, making this all possible all weekend long, blowing out the birthday candles for the Flying Dutchman, who would have been 150 years of age. Greg and I just concluded the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
My name is Dennis DeValeria. My wife and I are the authors of the Honus Wagner biography.
And you can get a copy of it here while they last. It's been a very busy weekend. So I have to ask you, Dennis, of all the people you could have written about, why the incredible talent of the Flying Dutchman?
Well, we moved to Pittsburgh in the early 90s, and we wanted to find out more about the best baseball player in Pirate history.
That's
I
right.
apologize to the Clemente family, but it was Honus Wagner. What we found was that very little had been written about him, and what had been written was very apocryphal. A lot of the old cornball tall tales that Wagner told himself. And so we decided we wanted to learn more. We were huge baseball fans, huge baseball historians, and we started doing some digging. Thought we'd write an article for a research journal or a baseball organization, and things got out of control.
There's a lot to write about.
There was, and the story was fun, and we thought he was such a fascinating figure and worthy of having a biography written about him. So 3 years later, we ended up with this.
Well, thank you for doing it. How can they get this wonderful book? Go ahead.
Well, this is still in publication. It's old news now, but it's the University of Pittsburgh Press, and it's just called Honus Wagner, a biography, with two very long last names, DeValeria.
All right, they'll be here as long as they're open today, so come on down and say hi to Dennis and his significant other and get your hands on this book. Hey, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, listen, look, I don't think there's any apologies necessary because, look, I used to be a huge fan of Barry Bonds, and Jeff Hathaway and I used to go back and forth, and I would say, hey, Barry Bonds, I think when you look at him being a five-tool player, as great as Clemente was, and then I go to the Clemente Museum, and he's the greatest of all time, and then I'm going over these stats of Honus Wagner today, Greg. I mean, 328 lifetime hitter, 32, 100 hits, I mean, in his career, incredible, 101 home runs, but if this guy plays today, he basically owns the Pittsburgh Pirates. He plays from the time he's 23 to the time he's 43, hits 101 home runs, absolutely incredible, and it's all here in this beautiful community of Carnegie, one of the best kept secrets. Now, introduce yourself.
Wayne Streeter. They call me Stats. I'm a huge Pirate fan, and Honus Wagner was the greatest Pirate of all time, arguably the greatest ball player of all time, period.
Here's what I found out, Stats, and I talked to Greg about this earlier on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show. I got to tell you something. I would actually pay them to have this opportunity to be here today. This is an amazing community, and Greg knows how much I love Carnegie, and we're going to do another one a little bit later that you're going to want to stick around for to spotlight this great community. But when I think about this guy, and I think about what he did, 8 batting titles.
Yes.
I mean, talk about this.
Still
guy.
not beaten. It was tied by Tony Gwynn, but it's still not beaten. 8 batting titles.
And Greg, here's the other thing. Not only did he play shortstop, he played first, and he played outfield. I always thought of him as a shortstop.
He played every position except for catcher.
He also sold popcorn in between innings, so he did everything that you could imagine. Now, one of the stats that I found interesting when we're talking about all these stats was Honus Wagner only had 101 home runs. But you got to remember, what kind of baseball were we using in those days, and what kind of size ballparks were we playing in?
Yes, he played in dead ball era, and the ballparks were huge. They were extremely big, much bigger than ballparks today.
Listen, if Bob Dvorak, one of the greatest baseball beat writers in the history of the game, were here, he'd have a lot more interesting stories. But I just want you to know this. It's worth coming here just to actually put a grip on this bat that was his bat. And to think about what this guy did with this wooden bat. And this was an era where they worked hard, born in Chartiers, Pennsylvania. They weren't worried about nutrition. They enjoyed a couple of pints of Iron City, an ice-cold, bloody steak. And all they did was go out and play baseball. So Stats, how did he have such longevity? Was it just a love of the game, or just, what was it?
He was a great athlete. He grew up in the coal mines. He got strong in the coal mines with his brothers. He had a brother, Al Butts Wagner.
Yeah, listen, I made that comment earlier today on the show, so he did have a brother named Butts.
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah.
Right, but his name was Al. You were trying to tell me that was the guy's given name. I'm saying, come on,
I
Rob,
tried to
we're not
give him the
going down
first
that
name
road.
Butts, but it didn't work, but it was Al. Okay, go ahead.
And in the offseason, Honus Wagner played basketball, barnstorm basketball around the United
And
States.
the Pirates weren't happy. Barney and those guys weren't happy by him.
Probably not. But
But just think about the history
Yeah.
and who he was and what he meant to this community.
He was friends with Jack Johnson, the boxer.
Yeah.
He was just a great athlete. Later in life, Honus Wagner played for the Pirates from 1900 to 1917. He came back and coached for the Pirates from 1932 till 51, and he died in 1955.
And he
Now
went-
they won a. I'm sorry,
No,
Rob.
go ahead.
They won a World Series or two with him. Am I
1909.
correct?
1909. they
Which
went-
was a 9-game World Series,
yes.
the best of 9.
And he was in the actual very first World Series in 1903 against Boston. They lost, but in the very first World Series against Boston and Cy Young.
So Exhibition Park, where was that in downtown?
Is on the north side, roughly around where the new ballparks are today. I'm not exactly sure positive specifically, but downtown around the north side, around the ballparks.
Well, so why did they go out to Oakland with Forbes Field? Just more land opportunity. They wanted to get out of the city. Why?
I believe so. Yeah. Just more room there. Yes, more people would come.
Because Stephen Forbes, the inventor of the internet or whatever the heck, Stephen Forbes. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm thinking this is one I didn't hear.
I just throw out.
Go.
Honus Wagner still today leads the National League in triples, which is crazy. Triples.
Which goes to show you
Yeah.
the bigger ballparks, those balls that
Yes,
probably would have been
yes.
home runs hit in the deeper ballparks.
Yes.
Were
Come on in
triples.
here. Come on in here.
252 triples. He led the league in stolen bases 7 different times.
Jeffrey Keenan, by the way. Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I'm Jeff Keenan. I'm the secretary here at the Historical Society. Thank you so much for
Oh, we
coming back
love
to see
Carnegie.
us. Greg, it's great to have you
Yes.
with us. Our man Stats. You know he's a true baseball person because he's got a nickname. You know, everybody's got to have a cool nickname. I like Arky Vaughn personally. That has a ring to
Arky
it.
Vaughn.
But what we have here, we give these to all of our
Here,
guests.
let me show. Go ahead.
This is a genuine replica of the $7.25 million Honus Wagner sports trading card. Currently, it's the second most valuable card out there. There is a Mickey Mantle rookie card that is valued at $12.5 million, but this particular card was one of the trendsetters as far as sports collectibles was concerned. And we get phone calls from sports talk shows, none as good as you're involved in, from Chicago and Los Angeles and New York, whenever the Honus card comes into the market. And it's like they're calling Mayberry down here. How you boys down in Carnegie? I said, well, hey, give me a minute. I'm going to get Opie on the phone here. But I'll tell them, God bless anybody has that kind of money to spend $12 million on a trading card. But Stats, tell them about the Mickey Mantle card and why that one was so
Well, Mickey
valuable.
Mantle card, obviously, he was a great ball player. His card is over $8 million, which is crazy. But Honus Wagner, I gotta say, his card will top it soon. One of his cards will sell for more than $8 million. I'm almost positive.
Hey Jeff, not to change subjects, but you got to tell us a little bit more about the regalia that you're wearing, because this is all vintage stuff from ballparks that you would have either worked at or folks that were around. Am I correct?
No.
No?
But it's a great story.
Come on, you got to roll with these things. If we're setting this up for you.
It's going to get better here in a second. It's terrific that you would say that. I love baseball. I love the Pirates. I love the concept of baseball as, you know, a pitcher versus a batter. Just like in the old days, boxing and baseball ruled sports in Pittsburgh. 2 men, 1 man and a pitcher against a batter, 2 guys in a ring. And the days before, team sports came along. And I shouldn't say this, but win, lose, or draw with the Pirates, we get visitors from all around the country coming to the greatest baseball park in America.
You know what I'm thinking about right now? Can you imagine if one night you went into a bar in Carnegie and the chief and the Flying Dutchman were sitting together at the bar? And you know, Art Rooney actually brought a heavyweight title fight to Forbes Field as your Charles Jersey Joe Walcott,
Yes,
right, Sam?
that's right, yes.
So, I mean,
Correct.
Pittsburgh was a
Probably
happening
right
place.
about that, yes.
Happening place at one time. But this guy was the man, was he not,
Oh
Stats?
my God, yes.
But I'm going to have to make up a good story about all
Thank you.
all
Yes,
of this.
save me
I
here.
just-
Save this segment.
But no, we have to, you know, as part of our Honus experience, we let folks hold this bat. We joke about Honus Wagner's DNA being on it, which will enhance any sport that you play. And Greg hasn't had a chance yet to come over and stand at what we call in Hollywood, he's the talent, and we'll position him right in front of our Honus portrait. Arizona, let's hear it. Let's hear it for Greg.
Hey, here's what I want to do, because it's such a special place. Just tell everybody where you're located at in Carnegie so they can get here throughout whenever, because it's definitely worth coming here to be able to capture a part of this history in Pittsburgh.
We're located in the Hustler Building, which is the headquarters for the Historical Society of Carnegie on 1 West Main Street at the Flower Mural Bridge. Our hours are Tuesday and Thursday noon till 4, Friday and Saturday, or Thursday and Friday noon till 4, and Saturdays 10 until 4. And on days like today, special occasions, we will open up for extra hours so our friends like you guys can join us. And we've got folks from North Huntington, Boardman, Ohio. We had somebody fly in from Arizona or LA yesterday just to be part of this. And we're just so glad that you can join us today to be part of this.
Let's give another little snippet about this particular bat, right? So this is probably 34 inches long, but it's got to be 42 ounces. Today the modern bat, first of all, you get the cupped end, which this one does not have. You also, the barrel's not nearly as thick as what these guys hit with today, and the handle is darn near as thick as the barrel of the bat. Imagine the pause that Honus Wagner had to have to hit with this kind of thing. This is amazing to me, to bat 340 and driving the runs and all the stuff that he did with a bat that was this heavy. This is amazing.
Here's the other person I want to add to that bar stool. Andrew Carnegie. Now, you know Carnegie had to meet Honus Wagner.
Yes.
Come on, Jeff.
Yes.
He had to.
And even if he didn't make it up for us.
Yes, he did.
That's how we made our career,
and
by the way.
They actually sat down at the Elks Club, Andrew and Honus, and had a couple of root beers. And Andrew Carnegie would tap a quarter on the bar and say, "Who's buying Andrew Carnegie a beer?" No. No, we think at different times that because Honus was such an exciting celebrity, that anybody who came to Pittsburgh, whether they're seeing a theater or a movie or a baseball game, would have wanted to meet Honus. And I do believe that there was a time that they did meet. I believe this is, in fact,
had to happen.
that there was some gathering that they were together.
So give us some clarity. Is it Honus or Honus?
I'm glad you asked that, because that's one of the two most common questions we get here. One is, how do you pronounce the name of the town? It's Carnegie. Carnegie, not Carnegie, as they say in some parts of the country that will go unmentioned, but it is Carnegie. And National Public Radio actually went to his hometown in Dunfermline, Scotland, and asked them, how do you pronounce the name of that guy, that little guy? Carnegie is how they pronounce it.
Come on in, folks. Show that crowd over there. Look at this crowd.
Okay.
He still matters even 150 years later. I absolutely love it. All right, go ahead.
And then
Jeff, did they ask you the question, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, and you tell them practice?
Yes, I do. But to answer, Greg, your question, his name was Johannes, John in German. And so Johannes, like William becomes Billy, Anthony becomes Tony, Johannes became Honus, which is John. And the term the Flying Dutchman, he was German, Deutsch, and they kind of morphed into the Dutchman. And we're glad he picked the Flying Dutchman, because like the Skipping Dutchman wouldn't have had like the same impact, I think, over the years.
Whole different,
yeah,
different feel to that.
So, but that's how that came about. And the fact that he was so good at stealing bases.
Yes, he was extremely fast. He had bow legs, but he was so fast he led the league in stolen bases 7 different times. Still today leads the National League in triples, 250.
How's that possible? It's been gone since 1955.
Yes, still today, 100 years later, leads the National League. And in batting titles, he won the National League batting title 8 different times, tied by Tony Gwynn. Still stands.
You imagine the experience of going to a professional baseball game back then. You had no internet, obviously, no 24-hour cable channels. But in 1920, KDKA starts broadcasting Major League Baseball. I mean, think about the significance of baseball here in Western Pennsylvania with KDKA radio, obviously Honus Wagner, and everybody forgets about the the 27 Yankees. But the Pirates in 24 and 27 had some pretty good baseball teams too. It just happened to be the Garrigan Company and Ruth were doing what they were doing.
Well, we were in the series and we lost against them in 27. Right. We won that World Series in 1925. I just throw out the Wagner brothers. We had the Wagner brothers, big boys and little boys.
Talk about Pie Traynor while we're on the topic.
Oh, Pie Traynor was another great babe. Arguably the greatest third baseman of all time. He
was that good, Stats.
He was extremely good. He played when Honus Wagner was coach. He coached. He was a hitting coach. Pie Traynor was third baseman. He was a great ball player. And later in life, Honus Wagner ran the sporting goods store with Pie Traynor.
Yeah, there was the Honus Wagner sporting goods store.
I didn't realize it was his. I thought they just named it after him.
Who else would it be?
It just
in Chatham Center, right?
Yeah.
Rob, I just had our new friend who wants to remain anonymous bring in from the Honus Wagner sporting goods stores. These are promotional matches, and these we don't have these
Don't
in
strike
our.
those guys,
We
my
don't
goodness.
have these in our archive collection, and a new friend of ours just brought these in today because they were. He felt that this was the place they should be.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Goodness
isn't that
gracious.
something? Isn't that
Look
something?
at I think I just tore it. Go ahead. Look at that.
And this
Don't put it in my
is the
closet.
glove that Honus Wagner would use, gloves like this. And he would cut a hole here to grip it easier and to pocket.
Listen, come on over here, some of you folks. Let's talk about this while you're here, because this is really about community, and it's about.
Come on, Lynn.
Come on, Lynn. Get in here.
Lynn is very. She'd be perfect to chat.
Go ahead. Talk to me a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
From Bethel Park. Lynn.
Come on a little bit closer.
I'm Lynn from Bethel Park.
Don't be nervous.
But my mother always told the story of Honus Wagner hanging out in her grandparents' kitchen. And my great-grandfather played ball at the, I have a little article.
Come on. You
The
just happen to have it with you.
Second paragraph is the only paragraph you need to read.
So which one is it?
The second paragraph.
Here?
This one. He was active
In baseball playing shortstop with Honus Wagner in the Iron Oil League, and also with the Etna Stars and Braddock Athletic Club. Look at
Yeah.
that. Grandma and Grandpa. Pretty cool stuff.
My great-grandparents.
Was that
right?
okay? So
Yeah,
this
my
is,
great-grandfather was the mayor of North Braddock for 4 years. I don't know whether.
and
he
if
did
you were
run
from
again.
Braddock, there
So-
was a difference between Braddock and North Braddock.
So, yes, he was in North Braddock, but Honus Wagner used to hang in their kitchen all the time, and I wish I'd asked my mother more about it.
That's crazy.
I
I mean,
know.
here's the thing, Stats, because I don't think people understand, because we see these ball players today and how they are adored, but they're so standoffish, you can't get up close and personal with them because the game has changed.
Right.
But Honus Wagner, you could go to Exhibition Park, Forbesfield, and watch him, and then you could be talking to him on the street in Carnegie like the next day.
Yes, Honus Wagner walked the streets of Carnegie. He would sit down and have a beer at the Elks Club. People would buy him drinks all the time. Yes, he was very personal guy.
He'd have never bought a drink if I was there. Hey, come on, anybody jump in here. Just one or two more people. Let's talk. Come on in here. What's your name, sir?
How you doing, Rob? I'm Matt Williams.
Nice to meet you, Matt. So talk about what brings you here today. Obviously, you didn't see Honus play, but you got a little bit of love for baseball, I think.
I've got a lot of love for baseball, and I was telling the story earlier. Whenever I was younger, very young, my mother's side of the family is Wagner's, and my grandmother. I was also a big baseball fan growing up, and my grandmother told me at one time, you're distantly related to Honus Wagner, and that's the first time I ever heard the name. So I went back. I still haven't confirmed or denied if that's true or not, but it doesn't matter. I learned about him from there, learned all the stats, learned how great he was, and it's been a lifelong thing.
Here's how we'll make that decision. Can you hit a curveball?
I'm probably not a relative, based on that.
But you know what? I can tell you this, and I hope you live 50 more years.
So do I.
But when the good Lord comes to bring you home,
We'll see if he's there.
first thing you're going to say is, look, I got a question. Can somebody tell me which cloud Honus Wagner is on? Because I got to talk to the guy a little
You
bit.
can get Honus Wagner's DNA come here at the museum.
I mean, tell him
Touch
this
his
is actually one of his bats, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
people don't. I don't think you realize you can. And what I love what Carol said earlier. Greg said, "Can I touch this?" And she said, Everything's touchable here. You're not getting that anywhere. Come on in here,
How you
sir.
doing?
Rob Pratt.
Yeah, I'm Dan McGrogan.
Dan, right
I'm
here.
president of the Historical Society, and it's just great that we're having this event. Honus is a really big part of the Carnegie history, and we're just so proud that we're able to collect some of his items, and we've cherished them.
Well, listen, we in Beaver County are kindred spirits to Carnegie. Talk about the Mike Ditka connection. Mike Ditka, born in Carnegie.
Yeah, he was born in Carnegie.
But his dad and mom, they went to Aliquippa because they got a
Right.
job there. Now, is there a Ditka Park in?
Well, that's an interesting point.
Explain that.
We have a baseball park named after Honus Wagner, we have a football stadium named after Honus Wagner, and a baseball field named after Mike Ditka. Only in Carnegie.
You wouldn't even let us keep that in Beaver County. They had to do that. But now, when did Mike? How old was he when he left here? Do you have any idea?
No.
Anybody know?
Yeah.
'Cause
I was very young.
When Mike Ditka left here, I know he went to elementary school at St. Titus, so he probably was in elementary school.
Well, his father needed a job, and he found a job there.
So,
Carol, tell the truth. He actually got recruited by Aliquippa to leave Carnegie.
come on, Carol, get in here. You're everything.
Come on,
This is
come
the
on.
person that made
Yeah,
this all
come
happen
on,
for me.
Garrett, she does.
Well, Mike Ditka Sr. played for the Carnegie High football team. And they go on about naming these opposite fields. Honus Wagner was hired to coach the teams at Carnegie High School. And halfway through the season, Carnegie Tech pulled him away and hired him. He should have the answers to this.
Come on over here, Dennis.
the
Come on,
book.
Dennis.
Come on.
Come on, come on back. By the way, there are Pete Cell cookies here. You better get here because they're going to be gone. Go ahead. Talk.
I get billing with the Pizzalis. Thank you.
Pizzelli. So talk about the whole Carnegie Tech, Carnegie High School. What happened?
Well, he worked here for the high school briefly, but then Carnegie Tech, what is now Carnegie Mellon, recruited him to coach baseball and be a associate athletic director. Not the responsibilities that you'd expect now of scheduling and that type of thing, but he coached the baseball team there for a few summers, and they did fair. He wasn't a great leader, teacher, instructor. But
He expected everybody to have the talent he had.
and all the guys came out for the baseball team when they found out Wagner was going to be the head coach.
And only because so much time has passed, and obviously the footage and all the things that we've come to know and love with our favorites, especially me growing up with Clemente and Stargell and Maz and all that. But do you think the diehards know? But do you think the average person has any idea when they drive by here the significance of what this man was in the sport of baseball and to the history of Pittsburgh?
Probably not. They probably do not.
Especially the locals.
Yeah,
Come on,
unfortunately, even the locals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Part of the reason is that he was not a controversial figure.
Just played baseball.
He was a humble, kind, gentle man who happened to be a brilliant ball player and the best ball player, one of the best ball players of his era. And it was pre-silver screen. It was pre-television. It was even pre-radio.
Right.
So the only way to follow the team was through the newspapers. And at the time, during some of his career, there were 9 daily newspapers in Pittsburgh. So everybody followed the game, and it was pretty much the only game. Football was in its infancy. It was only played by college teams, and there was very little padding. There were deaths on the field. Basketball was in its infancy, and he played basketball, but it was really not much of a sport on the national stage. Baseball was truly the national pastime during that time. So I don't think people can appreciate how big baseball was at the time. And now there are so many different things that could grab a young person's interest. Are they remembering ball players from 100 years ago? Well, for a while our book sales said yes, but now it's...
Well, hopefully we can do something about that. So talk to me about even the local people who live in this great community that I probably spend at least 4 or 5 days a week, come down and get something to eat, just drive through it, drive by this place before I go on KDK radio. Carnegie it gives me this uplifting feeling. No matter what I'm going through, if I can get into this town for even 15 minutes, it just changes my whole outlook. Do you think people who live here know about this guy? Young people growing up, Carol?
Well, when I taught school here, they did.
Good teacher.
But where I live on my street, up at the other end of Carnegie, a woman lived beside me for 15 years. She never knew that this historical society existed. And even people who work here, they come here, go to work, go and get on the parkway. They have no idea what's in this town. I mean, back in the day, families were families. I mean, I had 7 or 8 on my mother's side, 7 or 8 aunt and uncles. Everybody helped everybody out. Today, you don't even talk to your neighbor.
I know.
They, they're all in the house on their computers or their cell phones or whatnot.
Listen, Prez, get over here real quick. Just talk about the historical society and some of the other things that Carnegie is famous for. Then we're going to move on down the road a little bit. So go right ahead.
Okay, great. We're pretty proud of some of the permanent exhibits we have here. We had a local gentleman whose father was the math teacher at Carnegie High. He was an Air Force pilot. He was a POW for 7.5 years in Vietnam. And about 4 years ago, his sister was moving out of Carnegie, and she gave us all his information, all his medals, his certificates, letters that he had written home from Vietnam. So it's a really great exhibit. We have just recently founded a Aston family. Was a family actually in their descendants. And Aston was the first child born in the merged community of Mansfield and Chartiers. You mentioned earlier.
Yeah, where is Chartiers?
Chartiers is where we're standing.
Okay.
And Mansfield was across the creek. And in 1894, they merged to become Carnegie.
Really an amazing place for sure. And here's what I'm going to do. I'll make this public. When I retire, I'm going to my palatial estate. I want a place in the Carnegie Apartments. That's where I want to live. Give me the top floor in the Carnegie Apartments. I got Getco across the street. I can come down here with coffee. Come on,
The
staff.
Honus Wagner Apartments.
That's right.
Where are they at?
Right back.
They're right behind us.
Well, I'll spend summers there. All right, listen.
Just a
go ahead. Jump
plug
in here.
for the Astons.
Oh, yeah.
He played high school basketball in Carnegie, and he toured with the Harlem Globetrotters
No
for a number
kidding.
of years. Yeah, so that
3 years.
three years. Yeah,
I
so
think that's the standard.
You need to, these stories need to get out.
yeah.
I never knew. I know, but look, I'm just Rob Pratt. You need Bob Dvorak here. Look at this. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, we're real proud. We built on this, trying to establish, communications with the people. I mean, Jeff does a great job on Facebook. I know that a lot of people don't follow us on Facebook, but that's the way we've been communicating with people, and it's been great.
I also hear St. Patrick's Day in this community might be one of the best places to celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, it's not bad. Riley's has
That's
a
where
pretty
we're,
great.
that's where we're headed after this. And you kind of look like my former dear friend Dan Rooney a little bit. So you're kind of channeling me.
I
here a
actually
little
worked there for him. So.
What a great man. And anytime I get a chance to mention that family, it's a good day. But Stats, you're full of good stuff. Keep it going.
I just wanted to throw a shout out to the greatest sportscaster out there, Lady Fratteri, who was here yesterday.
Yeah.
For Honus Wagner's birthday.
And he also knows presidents, too. He teaches at Waynesburg.
Yes,
Right.
Waynesburg College.
He's incredible. All right, this is one of my favorite pictures. Get in here a little bit.
This one?
Yeah, I honestly, that's a picture to this day. Every time I see it, it almost brings a tear to my eye. The thought process. So, when was it? Anybody have any idea in the background of this picture at all? When it was taken, where it was taken, where was he at in his career? Was he a coach? This is when I think of Honus Wagner. I don't even think of the baseball card. This is the picture I think of. Deep in thought, just pondering what he's going to do magical with that bat coming up next. So,
Well, I don't know, but that'll be Stats' next project.
Guys, you got anything on that?
Sure.
Anything at all?
Not yet, but I will work on that, I promise.
All I know
I think
is,
he was a player because he was a little hefty when he became a coach.
Yeah.
and what's the most he ever made? 10 grand a year?
10 grand a year, yeah, which was the most back then, yes.
All
That's
right,
what
listen.
his house cost.
All right, by the way, Pirates Baltimore right now, 93.7 The Fan. We have our first spring training game of the year on the station that invented baseball. KDK Radio, part of all of this, everyone. The whole magic of baseball, this city, and we've got them taking Atlanta on this coming Tuesday, a little after 1. Greg and I, Coons Market, Black and Gold Sunday Show. Greg, get in here real quick. tell everybody where we are headed next. And this is another fine gentleman, and he happens to be related to the mayor. So tell everybody.
We are headed to Riley's Poorhouse. If anybody wants to join us for a little post show celebration, a little libation, we'll be at Riley's Poorhouse for a little bit.
Jeff, you want to say anything? Get in here real quick.
I just want to thank these wonderful gentlemen for being here. I'd like to thank our folks, the volunteers, the folks in Carnegie, and again, your support and encouragement means so much to us. Riley's Poorhouse. Did you say you were buying beers?
I will buy beers.
But thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Let's please have a round of applause for us.
All right. All I know is history lives here in Carnegie, and what they're doing here is magical. You need to tell your kids and grandkids about Honus Wagner. We should never forget. Get the Dennis's book, and more importantly, keep coming to this great community, because I absolutely love this part of Western Pennsylvania. We roll on now for a Sunday afternoon in the bright sunshine in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. Stay with us.